Up in the sky. It's a bird.
It's a plane.
It's Superman. Yes, it's Superman, strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men.
What is the first thing you think of when we say superhero?
Now, what's the first thing you think of when we say water? While these two topics may seem enticing on their own and eccentric together, we discover that therein swims an unexpected connection.
One that will rock your boat. Let's start with superheroes. Now, you'd have to live under a rock to have never heard of Superman, Batman, or Captain America. These characters are the product of brilliant imaginations, upstanding and handsome, men of valor and special ability sent to protect the everyday you and me.
Superheroes are people to look up to. It's not uncommon to see tiny versions of these characters jumping off fences and begging for candy on Halloween. But how did these Cape Crusaders come to represent such a vast portion of American culture?
This product of American people holds value much deeper than merely an entertaining movie or comic book. Instead, these mask-donning men are very real artifacts of what American culture values and treasures.
Think about it. Superheroes are generally defenders of justice, protectors of the peace, and honorable citizens. In both their mild-mannered alibis and their costumed alter egos, they are representative of what Americans are and what they think the ideal American should be.
For decades, the average superhero has been white, male, straight, able-bodied, tall, buff, and moral. In an attempt to make the American superhero representative of all Americans, he ultimately alienates most of the population.
I mean, come on, how many men like Clark Kent have you seen perusing the bookstore or shopping for groceries? It's simply not realistic to believe in men with qualities such as these superheroes, and yet as a culture, we idolize them and dream of becoming like them.
Now, let's flow away from this concept for a moment and start a new stream of thinking. Water.
What do you mean, water?
Well, Rachel, let me tell you. Water is one of the most basic and essential materials for survival. It is all around us, even inside of us, but it's not always how we want it to be.
Ask any scientist, and I'm sure they tell you that water does not come in a ready-made form. Instead, as rain falls in the mountains, as rivers flow through valleys, and as waves roll along the shore, these volumes of water pick up minerals, metals, elements, and a whole lot of crap. Basically, in order for water to be useful and attractive to us, it must undergo the scientific process of purification.
Purification of water has been around since as early as 200 AD and involves an arduous process of filtering, boiling, chemically treating, and redistributing. The resulting product is a refreshing glass of purified water. An interesting thing to note, however, is that this type of water, the water we humans drink every day, does not occur naturally.
Again, we'd be hard pressed to find water like this bubbling from a well or flowing in a river. We also don't drink the purest water humans make, distilled water, because it doesn't taste good to us. We prefer tasting minerals and certain additives in our water.
Now, we're sure you're thinking, yeah, Matt and Rachel, water purification is extremely intriguing, but what in the world does it have to do with superheroes? Well, actually, more than you might think.
Like the purification of water, American culture has taken the naturally occurring human, like you and me, and has filtered, boiled, chemically treated, and added values and ideals into what we consider the perfect man. A superman, if you will. We pick and choose the values we think are ideal from this boiled down version of American culture, and ultimately come up with something that does not occur in nature. Yet we package it up and sell it in plastic water bottles and plastic DVD covers.
Specifically, let's take a look at how this process of purification has changed over time, and how knowing about water filtration can actually teach us more about the changing values of American culture over the last century.
Let's first look at Superman. First introduced in 1938, Superman is representative of the silent generation, the people who are too young to fight in World War II, but have a lot of patriotism and a strong belief in the upstanding citizen.
Superman has had lust, dishonesty, ugliness, and lack of charm filtered and boiled out of him, and is left as the distilled water equivalent of that time period's values. To the modern American, it appears the water purification system has gone too far and has left us with something we cannot relate to at all. Because we humans don't like the taste of distilled water, additives are an essential part of the water purification process. Essential minerals, vitamins, and chemicals are often added to the tap water we drink because we know they are healthier for us. One additive that most people agree is important to have in our water is fluoride. However, it can be controversial.
In the same sense, the values that Iron Man embodies are often controversial in American culture. Iron Man can be described as a rich entrepreneur and a womanizer, but he's still a good guy at heart. A self-made man, he stands for the American dream. The Iron Man comic books first came out in 1963, the beginning of Generation X. He is mistrustful, cynical, individualistic, unimpressed, and feels misunderstood. To older generations, Iron Man may seem to be too far outside the normal sphere of things to be relatable. Yet, the people of Generation X find that he is far easier to swallow than Superman.
Just as the characteristics of superheroes have been changing throughout the generations, we can identify a shift again as Marvel's latest superhero, Deadpool, has flooded the stage.
Deadpool is a superhero unlike any before. Created in 1991, his persona is darker. A special forces veteran, he has become a mercenary and is set on revenge. He's newer and trendier, yet a more controversial version of the same old superhero we've come to expect.
Just like smart water, he contains many more additives than we normally see in our water, and he is loved by some and rejected by others.
But could this selfish, egocentric, and sarcastic hero be a reflection of the millennial generation? We'd like to think so.
Millennials are a lot more questioning than previous generations. They are focused on acceptance of your own body and sexuality, rather than conforming to what society tells you. Co-creator Fabian Nicieza has stated about Deadpool, "He is no sex and all sexes. He is yours and everyone else's. So not dismissive, but rather the epitome of inclusive."
So while many older moviegoers may find Deadpool to be crude and immoral, millennials love him because they're able to relate to his sarcastic attitude towards life.
In all of these examples, it becomes apparent that we must ask ourselves, what does this all mean? Certainly, like water, it is clear that superheroes are continually being reinvented and reimagined by our society to reflect what we want, and not necessarily what we naturally have.
But the thought remains, is this purification obtainable? Is it even realistic? It's unlikely that we'll ever have muscles as big as the Hulk, but does that mean that we shouldn't worry about superhero culture? And finally, consider the implications of the future. As our culture continues to shift, what new forms of filtered water will begin to line the shelves of our grocery stores and box offices? Which minerals and chemicals will be filtered out, and which will be purposefully selected for?
And perhaps the most important question remains, which is important to you? Do you prefer to drink the untouched water of mountain passes or the filtered bottles of store-bought H2O? As we choose, our choices influence culture. Ultimately, we must remember that the water we choose to drink is the water which ultimately makes up 75% of us. So choose wisely.